I thought my neighbour was just weird. That's what I kept telling myself. About 2 years ago, I moved into a cheap apartment building on the edge of town. It was old, the walls were thin, the elevators barely worked, and the rent was suspiciously low. At the time, I didn't care. I was a broke college student. Cheap rent was all that mattered. At first, everything seemed normal. Most of the tenants were older people. A retired couple lived downstairs. An older woman lived across the hall. And next door to me was a man named Daniel. Daniel was strange, not violent, not rude, just off. I only saw him a few times during my first month living there, and every single time he wore the exact same black jacket, the same boots, and he always had this empty expression on his face. He never smiled. He never said hello. He barely even looked at people. But that wasn't the weirdest part. Every night, at exactly 3:07 a.m., I heard loud noises coming from his apartment, dragging sounds, heavy footsteps, scraping noises, like someone was moving heavy furniture across the floor. At first I ignored it. I figured maybe he worked night shifts, maybe he was renovating, maybe he was just inconsiderate. But it happened every single night, always at exactly 3:07 a.m. Not 3:05, not 3:10. Always 3:07. After 2 weeks, I was losing my mind. One morning I knocked on his door. No answer. That night I knocked again. Still nothing. But I knew he was inside. I could hear footsteps, slow footsteps, right behind the door. But he never opened it. Then things got worse. One morning I stepped into the hallway and immediately noticed a horrible smell. It was metallic, rotten, thick. The smell was coming from Daniel's apartment. The older woman across the hall was standing there, covering her nose. I asked her if she had noticed it too. She looked at me and said something that made my stomach drop. She said, "This happened before." I asked her what she meant. She went completely silent. Then she quietly said, "The woman who lived there before him disappeared." I stared at her. "What do you mean disappeared?" She looked terrified. Then she walked back into her apartment and locked the door. I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. That night, I searched online for news about the building, and I found something horrifying. 6 years earlier, a 26-year-old woman had vanished. Her last known address was my apartment building. Her apartment number was Daniel's apartment. At that point, I was terrified, but I kept trying to convince myself it was just a coincidence. Then that night happened. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the dragging noises started again. Then, bang! Something slammed against the wall. Then complete silence. And then I heard crying. Very quiet crying. A woman crying. Coming from Daniel's apartment. I froze. I grabbed my phone and called the police immediately. Officers arrived about 20 minutes later. They knocked on Daniel's door. No response. Then we all heard loud crashing sounds from inside, like someone was frantically throwing things around. The police forced the door open, and what they found still gives me nightmares. The apartment was almost completely empty. No couch, no television, no bed, just one single chair in the middle of the living room. And in the bedroom, there was a massive wardrobe placed directly against the wall. The officers moved it, and behind it was a hidden door. The room behind that door was small, dark, and freezing cold. Inside, police found women's clothing, phones, jewelry, wallets, and identification cards belonging to multiple missing women. But Daniel was gone. He had disappeared. The back exit of the building was wide open. Police later discovered Daniel wasn't even his real name. He had stolen someone's identity. His fingerprints matched a man wanted in multiple states for kidnapping and murder. The woman who disappeared 6 years earlier was never found. But the story gets worse. 3 weeks after the police investigation, I was still living there. I couldn't afford to move out yet. Then one night, I woke up suddenly. I checked my phone, 3:07 a.m., and then I heard it. Dragging noises, heavy footsteps, coming from the apartment above me. I was confused, because Daniel lived next door, not upstairs. The sounds continued for nearly 10 minutes. The next morning, I ran to the building manager, and what he told me made my blood run cold. The apartment above me had been vacant for 8 months. I moved out that same day, and even now, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and check the time, and it always makes my heart stop when I see 3:07 a.m.